Hello and welcome to the Thursday, July 31st, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, recording today from Jacksonville, Florida. And this episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Graduate Certificate Program in Industrial Control Systems Security. And today on the Internet Storm Center website in our diary, we're trying something a little bit different. Now, we had guest diaries in the past from not our usual group of handlers, but this time we actually tried a little bit of video. And the reason behind this is that, well, last week we had this huge breach in the T application. The breach itself, I think, was a little bit stupid in the sense how simple it was, but of course it had a big impact for some of the victims affected by the breach. However, when I'm talking about breaches here also in the podcast, I don't like to do it because I don't like the victim shaming, even if some of them may deserve it. I usually try to focus on what are the lessons we can all learn from a particular breach, so we don't end up in the same situation as the victim here. And of course, one of the victims here was a T, and they made really sort of a very crucial, simple mistake with Firebase, a mistake that has been made many times before, but has been sort of brought to everybody's attention here in this latest breach. Brendon focuses on that technical lesson here in his video. Essentially, how do you secure Firebase if you have to use it at all? And how do you make sure that you're not a victim of the same simple exploit that was used here in this particular attack? So definitely, if you are coding with Firebase, take a look at the video. If you consider coding with Firebase, maybe take a look at the video and rethink that decision. But anyway, let me see how this works for you, what we should change with content like this in the future, and if it's overall useful to you. And then a quick follow-up to yesterday's Apple patches. I noted yesterday that there was no actually already exploited vulnerability in this set of patches. Well, that at least is true according to Apple's statements. However, Google patched one of these vulnerabilities in Google Chrome. And this patch came out about a week ago on July 15th. And Google did state that it is already being exploited. Now, it's not a surprise that Google Chrome sort of shares vulnerabilities with Apple Safari. The simple reason behind it is that Google Chrome or Chromium does use WebKit, which is the open source HTML rendering library that Apple produces. So both Safari and Chromium, Chrome, Brave, and Edge share all the same parsing library, and with that also some at least of the same vulnerabilities. And CISA released an update for its report on Scattered Spider. Scattered Spider keeps making the news with breaching some high-value targets. So always interesting what kind of updates they have here. Now, well, some of the updates here are really not that terribly exciting. Like, for example, they used some new file sharing site, I think it was mega.nz actually, to exfiltrate files. Yes, that's bound to always change, but also their social engineering part is seeing some changes. And that's, I think, part of what Scattered Spider is really sort of the most special about. They apparently have it down to impersonate various people, and not necessarily with AI. So there's no real AI component necessarily here to it. They're just good at it. They're just good in pretending to be someone else. And the latest part here is where they posted employees to convince IT and help desk staff to provide sensitive information. It's often the other way around, where a random employee is getting a call claiming to come from the help desk, but here it's actually the other way around, which is actually a little bit more difficult for the help desk because they're used to receiving calls from users that may be sitting in front of broken computers. So authentication, such always a challenge there. think through the procedures. How are you dealing with these challenges, and implement some strict procedures here. Also, alert the help desk that yes, people will try social engineering. They will try to claim it's an emergency, and not to fall for these ruses, and also how to deal with a real emergency, and how to distinguish them, and how to properly escalate things without revealing, for example, passwords, access credentials, or just simple procedures or reporting relationships that then later could be used by the attacker to further escalate access and, basically fool the next employee. That's always part of social engineering, where you as a victim here may not necessarily really give them a lot of data or details, but it's enough to then impersonate the next employee in the next phone call. And that's sort of how they step up their privileges call by call until they have access to the kingdom and launch the actual attack. So good report here to read. Definitely, given sort of the urgency and the currency of these types of attacks, definitely something that you should be aware of and should stay up to date with. Also from the social engineering point of view, not just from indicators of compromise and such that are very ephemeral, and I usually don't even look at them that much in these reports. Well, and that's it for today. So thanks for listening. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and as always, for leaving good comments and good ratings in your favorite podcast platform. Thanks, and talk to you again tomorrow.